Before I start getting into this video, I want to tell you that this is pretty much completely off the cuff. I'm not really preparing for this video, and this is just my overall sentiment about the situation that's been going on in general. Most likely I'll be making more videos about it, but I'm just completely beside myself with all the news I've seen about the riots that are happening in California. Not only do I think that what the younger generation of people are responding to this with is straight up unconstitutional, but I think this is one of the worst things that has ever happened socially to our country in like the last 20 years. So I'm just going to get right into it. If you clicked on this video, then you feel the exact same way that I've been feeling about this entire situation. What's going on in California with the government and the people there is something that is a complete mystery to me. Now, we all understand the basic hypocrisy of flying another nation's flag that you refuse to go back to. I'm not going to spend too much time in this video talking about simple hypocrisies because I feel like they're sentiments that we all already understand and we all already agree with and we can comprehend very well. I think something a lot more insidious is being represented by the riots in California. So, as most people know, a lot of the riots, their justification and their argument for why the illegal immigrants should stay in the country, and it's so important to make the differential between legal and illegal immigrant because it is not the same thing whatsoever. In any other circumstance, in any other situation, and with any other confines surrounding a topic, if you were to do something that was blatantly against the law and it were to endanger people and potentially cause problems in a society, it would not be looked upon with any empathy or sympathy or emotional manipulation to make you feel bad about the issue. What's happening right now is that the biggest issue with illegal immigrants and the whole issue of trying to perpetuate them as American citizens and a helpful part of society is that you are conflating two things that are not direct equivalents with each other. An illegal immigrant is an illegal alien. Under the U.S. Constitution, they are not seen as a person. And I know a lot of people might get really defensive and you just called someone an alien and you're dehumanizing them. This isn't a topic that should be surrounded with people's feelings because it clouds decisive decision making and decisive judgment that needs to take place in order to protect the people of our country. The biggest issue with not making that differential in your speech is now you're basically implying that there isn't that great of a difference between a legal immigrant who went through the due process to get into our country and did everything right and abides by all the laws and had all their paperwork in check and they're taxpayers and they're not doing anything wrong. They're a completely normal, average civilian who worked really hard and works really hard to make sure them and their family can stay in the country. That is not the same thing as an illegal immigrant. The way that they got into the country in the first place was by breaking a law. Fundamentally, them being here is morally bad no matter how you look at it. Whether you believe in religion or our political system or science, they're doing something that is inherently wrong, and it's the basis of them staying in our country. It's completely outrageous, and the people that are framing them as the same thing as people who got into this country legitimately should feel completely ashamed of themselves, and they're complete fucking morons because when you equivalate something like that, it's just like the whole trans issue or gay issues or any other social political issues in our country. When you start conflating two things and you lump other people into the same group or you represent a group in a really bad way, all you're going to do is hurt the cause and make people flip the complete opposite way into a complete opposite extreme even more than they already might be. Now, the second thing that I want to touch upon in this video is something that I just can't get over whatsoever. There's a loud minority of people who has been pushing forward the point in recent weeks that illegal immigrants do so much for our country. They work so hard and they work for less. They do the jobs that nobody else wants to. I don't understand if the people who are chiming in, well, no, I'm going to completely retract that. I do happen to understand that the people chiming in and saying stuff like that have absolutely no knowledge about politics or the economy or how any of this works. But when you have private companies or companies in general who hire people who don't need background checks, are able to be paid way less than the minimum wage in the country or the average wage, and you're actively taking advantage of the fact that that person has no leverage. Not only is that a very light form, I'm not going to compare it one to one because that'd be stupid and completely moronic, but it's a light form of modern slavery to take advantage of that person's work. On top of that, you're actively making the economy worse by hiring people who obviously don't have the same advantages or the same privilege as a normal American citizen. It makes it worse for everybody else in the country to be able to survive and live, and you're setting a horrible precedent. So in California right now, since that's what the video is about, a lot of people, including government officials, are panicking and freaking out about the deportation of the illegals because a large part of their economy is ran and sustained on the backs of illegal immigrant work. That is the complete fault of the management, the legislature, the companies, everybody who's involved and in power in the cities in California has royally fucked themselves by trying to take advantage of a situation that is quite literally against the law and the federal government. And now they're upset that they got caught, and now they have to pack it up and, playtime's over. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And they're trying to justify and spew this propaganda that these people are just the same as every other American citizen, even though that statistically they're more likely to commit crimes. If we're talking about this logistically, that percentage is 100% because all of them committed a crime to get here in the first place. But it's a horrible argument, the economy argument, the backs of illegals. That's an entirely idiotic argument. If you just dig a few inches deeper than at the crust, the surface of it, it's a horrible point that a bunch of people have made, and all it does is just make it more laughable that the people who are advocating for these illegal immigrants to stay in the country are trying to push the propaganda because they don't want to lose out on money. That's all it's ever been about. It's always been about money. They don't actually care about these people. They don't stand with these people. And they're only spewing this rhetoric because it's in their best interest. And I love how this has been like California's fourth or fifth time where the city has just burned down in the last 4 to 5 years in our country. And we're all just kind of acting like this is a normal event, like the Cavs and the Warriors going to the finals every year was, or a Star Wars movie fucking dropping in December every few years. Like this is becoming a tradition for California and their political leaders to just accept the complete demise of the state that they're in and do absolutely nothing about it. Now, there's a few more things that I'd like to touch upon in this video, one of which is directly related to the government officials who happen to be in charge in California right now. I don't understand how it's not classified as an insurrection or some type of federal offense to try and make attempts to instigate violence and instigate resistance against the federal government when they are trying to do nothing else but uphold the laws of the United States. The fact that Mr. Newsom and all the other political leaders in that state right now have openly and spiritedly admitted to trying to resist military forces coming in, police forces helping out, and ICE coming in there and deporting people. That should be some type of crime, and these people should be immediately revoked from completely taken out of office and then put in jail. I feel like if any other normal citizen tried to do this, that's the whole point of this entire situation. It's insane. We have normalized a level of insanity in this country that makes it feel normalized for average citizens and political leaders and wealthy people to do outrageous things that go directly against the US law. And we're all just kind of sitting by and spectating, and some people are even proud of it. Anytime a state goes against the federal government, we're going to have a problem. This should be very, very common sense. Now, I've heard people out, and I understand the argument that it sets a bad precedent to send the U.S. military into a state on a domestic state of the U.S. and to have them dealing with people. But what a lot of people fail to acknowledge is that there is already a precedent in U.S. history for this happening when things have gotten out of control, and nothing bad is actually happening to people who aren't breaking the law. As long as you just don't break the law, nothing bad's going to happen, and everyone's going to be like, oh, sounds so authoritarian and dystopian and completely totalitarian. It's a complete exaggeration and inflation of what's actually happening. The the Californian, I think she's the governor or the mayor. I think she's the mayor of L.A. She came out in a press conference a few days ago and admitted, I don't know why she admitted this, she thought it was making her point sound more coherent and believable, but she admitted that when you go down the streets of LA, you can't even tell that the military has even had a presence there in the last week. And I feel like that's a testament to the fact that nothing unlawful is actually happening. In fact, it is actually perfectly within the president's given power and the federal government's right to enact a force like this when there is resistance and law breaking to this magnitude. And like I already said, there's already two precedents in somewhat recent American history for this happening. This is not an unheard of event. But I do empathize with the position that it can set a dangerous precedent if, checks and balances aren't gone through and whatnot. But I would argue what sets a more dangerous immediate precedent is allowing people to break the law at mass scale, do absolutely nothing about it, and then go on pretending like it's completely normal. I don't think that takes away from the point that it can be scary to realize that your government has the authority to step in and enact the power that was given to them by the people of the U.S., by the way, and use it to get something done. I understand how that's scary. I understand the slippery slope fallacy people try to use with that argument. I agree that there are certain things that can go very wrong when trying to do something like that, but I would much prefer that that be done right now for this situation than for everything that's happening in California to continue. I do think that in the future it will be important to keep an eye out on what the government does in the very near future, and if they make this a regular thing, I think maybe we should look at adjusting the policies and laws in our country if force like this is used in unnecessary situations. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is a part of the current laws that are being enacted, is that this is a justifiable reason to use the force. And here's a point that a lot of people made, and it's a very, very sound point. If Americans were to try and do this in any other country, including Mexico, we would all be shot and killed immediately when we tried to do this and take advantage of systems like this. Any other context, any other non-emotional, normal, average argument that you would make for a situation that could be akin to this would be considered an invasion. And everyone is trying to compare this to other social issues we have, and it's like, God, God, it quite literally is an invasion. Everyone's like, but what about the children and the families that are being split up? They're illegal aliens. They should have never been here. They broke many laws to get here. They continue to break many laws while they're in the country. This is not something to be empathetic or sympathetic of. Of course, if you're a humanist and you really care about human rights and people's rights, that's great and all, and it sounds great. People love to have their ideologies and sit up on their high horse and talk down to people who disagree. But one thing I'll say is that I find it funny that a lot of the people that promote that type of rhetoric either are illegal, have family who are illegals, or they don't even have to deal with illegals where they live to begin with. Ideologies are beautiful and pure and amazing until you are actually tested and your ideology is limit tested to see if it holds up when you actually have to stand by it when bad things are happening. And I think it's an emotional argument. I think our country's been through enough emotional manipulation in the last half of a decade, arguably a lot more than that. I think people are sick of it, and we just want simple issues that should be completely black and white to be taken care of and solved in the way that the American people voted for. I'm only even making this video because of the pure astonishment that I have witnessing this event unfold. I cannot believe that the state of America has become so horrendous, so awful, to where something as simple as illegal immigration is seen as a controversial topic, and I do not believe that it's a 50-50 issue. I believe it's maybe like a 20-80, 90-10 issue, with most of the pushback from chronically online losers who do nothing but sit in their mother's basement or do nothing but doom scroll on Twitter or TikTok. It's all the activists and the virtue signalers who want points for being a good person on their virtual account. These are the majority of the people who don't understand the black and whiteness. I'm very young. I'm so disappointed in my young generation for not comprehending how easy of an issue this was. In fact, I find it funny that it's being called a conservative position when during Obama's administration, the same exact thing happened in a massive scale, and it not only happened, but it was arguably less humane. And he did it to a much larger scale, like I just said, than Trump has currently done as well. This is not a Republican Democrat issue. This is an American issue. If you are an American citizen, legally and lawfully, and you have family members here or a family of your own, this should be a non-controversial, non-debatable topic. This is hurting everybody no matter which lens you look at it from, and it should be a problem that shouldn't even exist as it is. So it needs to be taken care of. You're a child if you can't understand that. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have much more important things that we have to worry about. People can't buy homes. People can't afford groceries. We can't afford power. And in my opinion, 90% of everything that is politically wrong or politically contentual in any situation always goes back to scarcity. I feel like a lot of people would just generally be happier if we had more and we didn't have to fight for less. This shouldn't even be a priority. We should get them out as quickly as possible, then start talking about the real issues of where we should allocate our resources in our country. And what I'm about to say might be seen as somewhat conspiratorial, but I find it hilarious that the American population hasn't learned that sometimes situations like this are orchestrated by the government to pin people against each other on something that should not be a contention issue whatsoever, in order to distract you from other things that might possibly be happening. So if you are someone who cares about the state of our country and the direction it's going, I know there's a lot of apolitical people. I respect you because, you know, it is a headache and you have to make money and survive, but at the same time, if you're someone that cares about the direction our country's headed in, keep your eyes open, because historically America has a precedent, and so do other governments, for when an action like this is being taken, something else is happening behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about. That's just my opinion, and I think it's something worth noting. I only even made this video because for any American or foreigner looking outside in at what our country is going through right now, I'm speaking to all of my fellow Americans. If you are someone who is sick and tired of issues that should be common sense not being common sense and being drawn out for years, completely blown out of proportion, dividing families, ruining the culture of the US, I I sympathize with you, and I agree that it needs to stop. This has been going on for almost 10 years in our country, and it's not something that most normal Americans want to be a part of at all. It needs to end. It's not something that is up for debate. We're done. Our country is moving on from this bullshit. It should have never taken place in the first place. We're getting it the fuck out. Americans are sick and tired of being the world's police. We're sick and tired of being guilted into sending money places, into bowing down to emotional arguments instead of putting all of each other and our own families first. We're tired and exhausted, and it's going to stop. And I encourage anybody who wants to do anything about that, speaking up, or donating to certain people, or voting correctly, or, you know, being the change you want to see. As much as I hate how overused and corny that saying gets, do whatever you can to try and change the state of our country, because we're all sick and tired of it. I just wanted to make this video to get it out and put it out there in case anybody else feels the same way. I can't stand what's going on. It it melts my brain and makes me view our country in a way dumber light than I probably should. I know this is an intense and crazy video for me to make as my first video on this channel, but I had to say something because I feel like not enough people are saying what everyone else is feeling. It's not something that should be happening, and it is a black and white issue. Whether you like that or not, you need to grow up. The emotional manipulation is not going to work on me. I don't care if you call that fascist. I don't care what names will be thrown my way. This is the state of the country. This is what needs to happen. Anybody else who's out there and is very reasonable, I hope you enjoyed the video. And people who didn't enjoy the video, I hope I make a video that you enjoy next time. But, well, that's about it. I'm glad I got that off my chest. More videos to come, maybe about this topic or other things. I'll see you later.